You just say what you need to say, and you'll be okay.
Yeah, John Mayer style.
Say what you need to say.
Say what you need to say.
All right, are we doing this, or are we just doing John Mayer?
You're listening to The Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean, American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
What is up, everybody? It feels like we've been gone for a really long time, but we are back now, the Janchi Boys. This is the Janchi Show. It is I, the dictator, Patrick Armstrong.
Dictator's
back.
The dictator's back, Patrick Armstrong,
All
here with my
hail.
fellow dictators,
dictator.
co-hosts,
Daddy,
KJ Roelke
ew.
and Nathan Noah. Did you just call me the daddy dictator?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice.
There's not a good way to take that.
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know.
I
how
could be
that
the
sounds.
dictator daddy.
Nope.
Is that better?
That's decidedly worse, actually.
Decidedly worse usage of those words. It is us, Patrick, Nathan, KJ. What's up, fellas? It's been a long ass time.
It has been
It's been a little
probably for you an ass time, as you've been
Yes.
wiping a lot of baby butts.
It has been ass time over here at the Armstrong household. That is 100% true.
Yeah, it's
Oh
good to
my
be back.
gosh.
It's been probably like a month and a half since our last episode came out, which is wild. And I was just like,
And
man,
we
it's-
just now recently said, hey, we haven't put out any episodes in a long time. You might have noticed.
yeah, it's just wild. Like the fact that we made it to this point, putting out weekly episodes, and it took the literal birth of a child to deter that. It's pretty cool. But also,
That's
it's
true.
nice to be back. It's nice to be talking with you, filling up people's ear holes with some classic Janchi banter. Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. Did you guys miss us? Talking to the listeners, of course, not you guys.
Oh, okay. I was like, pause for replies. We haven't gotten any texts or voicemails being like, where y'all at?
Yeah,
So,
it's true. I haven't.
I think they get it, but also
I think they did.
Do you
If
think they
they-
get it or they just don't care?
Or maybe they don't care. That's fine. Maybe this
If
content
you don't
is
care,
bad.
let us know in the comments below.
It just text us.
If you're not
and
listening, let us know.
send a text, end the show at 972-677-8867, and
Text
we will
stop
we
to
will text stop to unsubscribe. And if enough of you do it, we'll just cancel the show. Just
Or
quietly.
resubscribe.
Yeah.
Come back.
Oh.
We're here. We're still here.
Speaking of opting into notifications, we have a very exciting opportunity. When this episode drops, you will have just like one more day, I think, to submit an application for our con giveaway. We're raffling away, not raffling, I guess. We're giving away
Yeah,
one
it's
free
raffle.
ticket for an adoptee who is 18 years or older to come and hang out with us in con. And all you have to do is fill out a form. It's in our link in bio and also other places. Do they need to do anything else, Nathan?
No, just fill it out. Yeah, I mean, we have lots of people who have already filled it out, and thank you for that. We hope to get some more in there, and then we'll just do a random drawing essentially, and you'll get that free early bird registration if you haven't registered, or you'll get reimbursed if you've already registered.
Ooh,
yeah.
Good clarification.
So this should be open to anybody that's going to con, and we don't want to exclude anybody who's already signed up, early and stuff like that. So because this is just again from our anonymous donor, we just want to thank everybody who's has that opportunity to go. So because I believe personally, not speaking for you guys, but I personally believe that it's worth it, and that there's a lot of great things that come out of con and the community at con. So
Yeah,
I don't
and I
believe
wouldn't
that.
know, but
I
I'm
don't
excited
believe
to
it.
find out.
I went last year and I couldn't disagree more. Just terrible, terrible time, terrible community.
you looked like you were having such a bad time eating all
Horrible
that
time.
pizza.
Yeah, you put him
Having
in
such a great
an
time
apron,
outside.
which I thought was an odd choice. That's probably why I didn't want to go back.
Oh, that was right.
Oh,
We did
yeah.
our little apron walk.
That was fun. I had a
Anyways,
good time with that.
so we'll announce the winner of that giveaway on Friday, April 26th at 4:30 p.m. Central, which is 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. I can
Yes.
math. I'm yeah, it's fine.
And you don't have to be present to win. So yes, if you're not watching, that's fine. We will contact you on email. So, but if you want the suspense, come on and come say hi.
If you are present, though,
bonus points.
Shout out to you.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah, so we'll announce that again on Friday, April. I just hit my calendar like an idiot. Friday, April 26th, 4:30 Central on Instagram. So follow the Janchi Show. We'll go live for a hot second and announce the winner. Fellas, it's been a long time since I have really thought about adoptee content. That's probably not the same for one Nathan Nowak, who is literally spending a lot of time getting ready for con. And I don't know if it's the same for Patrick, who I think your other podcast has morphed into more generic stuff. Is that right?
What do you mean by generic?
Like not specifically adoptee stuff?
Yeah, not specifically adoptee stuff.
Yeah. So
it never really was meant to be that. It just started very heavily in that.
Yeah, you had pals. You were in that. You were thinking about it. Yeah. But one of the things, as I was thinking about my own impending fatherhood, and then I heard on a podcast, so these hosts referenced an article that was like, oh, some things that Americans lost by not going to church, which obviously not every American goes to church or ever went to church or does the whole church thing. But it was just interesting. And it was thinking about like, like the social circles, right? Like one of the things that I've experienced leaving church is I don't interact with people not in my generation really anymore outside of like work, but also I work remotely. So I almost never interact with people in social situations. And I just wonder, like, what's the, what's my question? What's like looking ahead to con, thinking about other events, like maybe you're in a space where there are adoptee meetups or things like that. Like what's the play? How do you go into there and like talk to people? Nathan, you surprised me when we met all those years ago for our first time in LA. You were way more outgoing in person than you like speak on the podcast. And I was like, oh man, this dude's a party animal. He loves being out there, being with a crowd. How do you do it? How do you come in there with that white guy energy and just talk to anybody?
The white guy energy. I mean, it's true. It is. I was gonna say I never shied away from groups as a kid, and even when I joined, a fraternity in college, and I love social settings. I love to talk to people. I love to hang out. And so, yeah, I just go in wanting to talk to people, hear their stories, see where they're from, find commonality. And the funny thing you say about the adoptee kind of the community, something that I didn't ever look for. I didn't look for the adoptee commonality. I was always just looking for, I used to live in California, or I used to go skiing, or things like that. It was different topics. And now when I am in the adoptee ones, it's like, yeah, it's geared toward that. We, talk about sometimes adoptee, other communities that we're involved in, or agencies, or locations, or stories, or, reunions and things like that. So it's kind of the same, but, you just got to find that topic, I guess, that, that's comfortable for everyone to discuss.
So adoption. Be like, hey, is adoption as traumatizing for you as it is for me?
So yeah, that's the part I don't dive into at first. But
adoption, love it, hate it. You
do you
go.
Think we should keep it going, or should we just abolish it outright? Your thoughts?
Yes, it's a little more subtle. So,
great.
Yeah, sorry.
Well said.
I'm going to be honest. So I also have not been thinking very much about adoptee things recently. I did an event in the last 2 events, in the last couple months. I have something coming up soon. I hope I didn't miss it. Anyways, I think they would have messaged me, right? Anyways, in the social aspect of it, like I feel like I developed my outgoingness as in, like, I don't know if I necessarily consciously did this, but it's like survival technique as a kid to then be accepted and yada, yada, yada.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I'm always naturally been inclined to be more introverted. But when I get into a social setting, I will be very extroverted. And especially like if I drink a lot, like that just opens it wide up. Or it's just like, yeah, it just opens it up. But
courage.
I mean, I'm like moving at a different wavelength this year for sure. But when it comes to the social aspect of it, yeah, I agree with Nathan. It's just like you kind of just go in with a topic, I guess. You just ask. I don't know. I'm going to be honest. Last year, people just came, not to sound like facetious, but like people like came up
Patrick
to me.
was like, people know me.
Well, like that's what John did. John came up to me and came up to us.
Sure.
And like introduced himself. And so like I didn't really have to work very hard to meet new people. Like it was just cool that it just kind of happened. And then like the people that I wanted to talk to, like I went up and, you know, introduced myself. Like that's the thing. Like I already went in with knowing like a list of people. I was like, okay, I want to make sure I talk to this person, this person, this person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I accomplished that. But I don't know.
All right,
I'm more thinking about your. Well, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, what I'm hearing you say is, listeners, if you want to talk to Patrick, don't make him work for it.
So I'm only going to be there one day. So that's Saturday right. When I do my thing with Kira,
which is that at lunchtime or is that a different time?
Yes, the lunch,
the lunch hour
on Saturday.
Great.
And then I do believe that Emily and the baby Van might be making an appearance.
Heyo!
I don't know for sure, but maybe.
Okay.
But regardless, they're going to be up there with me. So we're going to be doing other stuff in the weekend, but making time for y'all. And honestly, like all of that to say that I was really hung up on those, like not thinking about adoption stuff, because I feel like that's been my dad experience. That's been very different than other adoptees that I've talked to who have kids, either before or after consciousness, and feel like it continuously was unlocking things.
Yeah.
And for me, I feel like I'm like, none of that has happened.
Yeah.
At least nothing that I've consciously been aware of.
Was that male or female adoptees?
I think it was both. Truly. Yeah. On the show and just in conversation with other folks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think that you've got the benefit of having done a lot of what's behind door number 4 on the show pre-Van being born. So,
yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't know how, now having been like in the mode of raising a newborn, how anyone could possibly
think about anything else,
handle an identity, identity journey at the same time as this. Yeah. Like my power to all of you, 100%.
Yeah, I don't think you're necessarily like pinpointing things that happen while you're being a parent or a new dad to like any of your adoption stuff. It's sometimes it comes later. And for me, it was things that were different than the ways that I parented or wanted to parent than my wife, who was, not an adoptee. And I don't know if it was even an adoptee difference, but then I still tried to make a correlation sometimes. It's like, I wonder.
Like you still feel that as an adoptee.
Yeah.
Even if it's just the difference of family.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
And the way that we were both raised.
Yeah, which for you would be more pronounced since your wife is Asian American and in an Asian American family versus you being in a white American family.
Mm-hmm.
Like then you would just be like, is it just family difference? Is it family plus culture difference? Is it adoption difference? Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I was also thinking too. Oh, sorry, go for it.
I was going to say, I'll give you an example. The one thing was hearing my children cry as a baby was hard for me. First, for her, she seemed a little more, it's natural. This is just what, babies do sometimes. But for me internally, it was just harder to hear. I always wanted to do something. Maybe this is the people pleaser part of me where I wanted to like somehow make the babies stop crying. And I felt bad when I couldn't get them to stop crying. Whereas my wife was more like, oh, it just means that they're hungry or sleepy or whatever. And she'll just kind of tackle it. Whereas I don't know, I just took it more personally somehow. So
Yeah, when at the very beginning, I felt like I kind of was like, we were still in the hospital, to be honest. So it had to been the first 1 or 2 days, but I was struggling with that a little bit with the cry and feeling like I had to like do something and I couldn't figure out how to make them stop crying. And I think I might have wrote about it on Instagram, but one of my friends who's not adopted but just recently had a kid in the last couple of years said he felt the same thing, and it's just like the biological connection of child to mother that's really that cry. But to your point, like the cry, like we have that connection severed very early on, whether it be right after birth or right at birth or, you know, a few days or months afterwards. Like we still have that separation. So obviously I think that makes sense that cry would affect you a little bit more deeply, whether you know, are conscious of that or not. It's just like trigger something. But I say all that because I don't feel like I felt it in that way of like, oh, I don't know, like taking it personally in that way. You know what I mean? But I get what you're saying because I don't know. I'm just like thinking about those moments now of just like where it felt like I was like on the cusp of feeling something. But because I've been like talking about this stuff for 3 years, it was just like, oh, I had like the thing. It's just like, and then I just moved to the next thing, I guess. Does that make any sense? Listeners, am I making any sense?
You're doing really great at only using pronouns without antecedents.
I don't even know what that means.
You're really
What's
like,
an antecedent?
It's when you define, like, okay, for example, Patrick is a podcast host. He records on Mondays. He is the pronoun. Patrick, the sentence before, is the antecedent. So you're like, you know how when the thing happens and then that made me think about that other, and so then that happened, but like
that is what I'm doing.
That is never defined. Thing is never defined. So
I don't know if I can. I guess I don't know if I can define it. Maybe do I? Yeah. Can I define it?
I mean, you probably could. It's interesting, like hearing you say that, and the both of you like having that experience. It makes me think about like, is this the biological, to your point, like how much can we separate out adoption versus just like kind of biology and human nature?
Right.
Is this in the male partner, in the, especially like birth father situation, is it a biological, like, oh, I need to care for this kid? Is that biological sense of I need to care for this child enhanced by our adoptee status? Are adoptees generally more empathetic as people, maybe for the purposes of code switching, for fitting in, for survival? You know, like is the empathetic part of us a part of survivalism as an adoptee? And does hearing a child's cry then remind our bodies, oh, I went through this and it puts me in that place? And so we have like a complex post-traumatic stress, like response to that moment, you know, like it's 4 different things, because I don't even know, there's probably other things, right? So it's at least 3, if not more, things that it could be. And it's just interesting. And it's interesting too, like Patrick, you saying, oh, I've not really been thinking about adoptee stuff much. Partially, I'm sure that's because we have not been doing the podcast as much.
Sure.
But also I feel like maybe the adoptee online space has gotten quieter. And I wonder, like, you know, as I reflected at the top of the show, I think it's really fantastic that we're still making time to do this, even if we have less time to give. We're still like doing this, and telling stories is still important to us. And I wonder if like we're 4 years out from COVID now, from like that first like lockdown and all that stuff. Have we just moved on and like begun to really settle into normalcy? Have we intentionally or unintentionally filled our lives back up with doing all the things when 4 years ago we were like, wow, I have all this free time forced upon me.
Right.
I get to rebuild in a specific way, you know? And I think that for so many of us, adoption is like always in the back burner, never the forefront, you know? And so it's just interesting to like kind of be in this space, in this time in 2024, and think about the adoptee space, you know, at large, and be like, are we all getting quieter, or is it like, is it just getting muddled out by other things, or even while we're looking ahead to con and being there unofficially as the Janchi show, but officially as friends and partners with con. So yeah.
That is such an interesting question.
Mm-hmm.
Is the space getting quieter? And not because I feel like I'm like a loud voice or anything.
I mean, you have a loud voice.
I do have that's just naturally natural speaking voice.
So
yeah,
I
very
think
interesting.
so on that question. I do think that's a very interesting question. I think a lot of things were started during the pandemic, like, us specifically too.
Us.
But I think other organizations, other groups, other podcasts, other, meetups and stuff got together virtually, and now they're doing in-person meetups, because there's still organizations that I see here in Colorado that are doing like just lunches or potlucks, or I know Adoption Mosaic still comes out here to Denver and gets together with the adoptee community. And so I see more of that on my feed, because over the past 4 years I've followed
started
more
following
of these now,
them.
Now I see more of it. So it's not that it's specifically quieter. I might specifically be quieter because I'm finding less time to go interact with these groups now, but I still feel like I see the stuff happening, and because those things got started. Now, are some of those things going to get fizzled out? Some of them might slow down. Sure, there's probably that that possibility, but for
Again,
me specifically,
text stop to 977 8867.
I think I totally agree with you, Nathan. I think it's interesting in the sense that like maybe it's just quieter, or like social media maybe seems quote unquote quieter. Mm-hmm. As you were talking, I was just thinking about like the kind of posts and stuff that I came in seeing, and it was like a lot of like 10 slide infographic stuff, and I was making those things.
Yeah,
like I was making those
long
things.
carousels,
and long carousels. And as you were talking, I was like, you know what? I don't see that a lot anymore, and I wonder if the noise and the way that we are speaking and utilizing our voices is just different now. We're utilizing them in a different way. Like Nathan said, we're just meeting in person, and instead of having to just write like all the time and post that, like we can write and maybe probably keep that to ourselves, and then have like maybe a different discussion in person than it would have maybe ended up being on Clubhouse or on Twitter Voices, X Voices, whatever it is was. I don't know.
It was Twitter Voices.
Was it? LinkedIn Live. But yeah, I think it's just like evolved. And like I back to your original, what you said originally, KJ, I think that, like personally, I feel like I not evolved past that thing, but just like I'm just like, for as much as I always wanting to do adoptee stuff and having that centered, it's like now I'm not only this like one thing, like you said, it's like you always in the background, never in the fore. And for 3 years, it was only in the fore, and kind of everything else was in the background. Yeah. And now there's been like that shift again.
Yeah, which again, I don't mean to do this. It's not intentional, but this year at Con, it's all about media representation, all those things, which I mean is obviously on my mind because I still have to get my crap together and really nail down what we're talking about and how we're going to present all that stuff. But one of the things that I've always said was we need to know what we're looking for in representation. We need to be able to voice that ourselves, so that when some well-meaning higher up, whatever, if it's a creative, if it's an executive who's willing to back a project, whatever, they're like, okay, I hear you, I believe in you, let's make it happen. What do you want? You're not just caught like deer in the headlights style,
right? Right.
You're not caught just like listing off like this huge long list and be like, that is not attainable. But we need like one specific step, Right. But like, what do we do ourselves a disservice, or do we have, maybe a different way to ask this is, do we have any responsibility to stay and to keep adoptee-ness at the forefront of our conversations, present online, that kind of stuff. I heard some other, I think he's like a web developer or whatever, who was like, oh yeah, these people seem great, but the minute they stop tweeting about web development and they start posting about something else, I unfollow them. They seem like great people, but I don't want that in my feed. So I just like unfollow them. So it's like, is the way, like, yeah, because social media has changed. It's been 4 years. And also in that 4 years, people could have 2 new jobs in that time. Like so many things can change. And so, yeah, it's just like how do we keep up with an ever evolving landscape of public communication and clamoring and all that kind of stuff? Also, like in America, election year, the adoptee stuff is naturally going to get probably drowned out some, but like still, like, do we have a responsibility? Should we be really hyper focused in order to achieve things for our community later on down the line? Like, how are you as fellow voices in the space thinking about that?
I think when we started this, we started our journeys and did the podcast to follow our journeys. And so as we progress and we develop and change, I think it's just natural that our show changes a little bit with that as well. And if the forefront of our conversations diverge to now parenthood or other things, I think that's fine, because it's still us and there's still things about it that relate to adoption. And then we may come back full circle when we start having more conversations about how do we talk to our kids about adoption, which I know we've kind of had a little bit here and there. But I think things will always progress within our lives, and I think that's fine. And if anybody wants to unsubscribe because we're talking about dad stuff instead of, straight up adoptee stuff, well, then that's their choice. So.
Okay, I have a follow-up question based on Nathan's answer for you, KJ. Did you mean us as a show specifically, or just us as individuals? Us as a general us as voices?
Yeah, I guess I think of it as the three of us as individuals who are hosts of an adoption-centered podcast.
Okay. So I feel like I have been thinking about this question a lot recently because I haven't been doing so much adoptee stuff. I don't know, for some reason, just in my head, I started to think about like, okay, am I doing something wrong? Like, am I supposed to be more active, more vocal? Like, I don't know why, just this like weird, like creeping sense of doubt or shame or something just like kind of came up. Maybe I haven't been because I haven't been in therapy in 3 weeks. Anyways. And so I feel like I am at this crossroads of like wanting to expand the types of conversations that I've been having. And I think I've been doing that, and it's been going really well. And I think one of the things that I've noticed is how I've started to utilize not just the language, but even my adoptee specific experience to talk and have conversation with other people who are outside of this community, who have this might be even that first step in. And I feel like when I have that creeping sense of doubt, I've been like rooting myself in the idea that, okay, I've taken the next step in evolution of my own journey personally to where I think I'm doing kind of what I would want anyone to do if they ask me like, oh, what should I do with this knowledge? It's like, well, share it with more people. On the show side of it, it's like, okay, I always have the lifeline too. Like, okay, I'm going to be talking about adoptee and adoption specific stuff for the adoptee audience, and then potentially anyone
and beyond,
connected to it. But I feel like for anybody, I don't know if it's like responsibility is like the right word, or it feels almost like an obligation. And I don't think you should be obligated to use your voice in any specific way. Like, only in the way that like, I don't know. I was going to say best serves you, but then that seems very individualistic and opposite of like a community care mindset which I am about. But I think the community care only starts when the individuals are able to care for themselves and then bring their full self to the community, or as much as they can, to then care. And see, I don't know. It's just like, I had moral ethical conundrum conversation earlier today, and so now I'm like bringing that into this prompt right here. So
yeah,
I'm
because
just
it's
all out of
essentially
sorts.
I have asked you a contractualist question: what do we owe to other people?
Yeah, well, it's like we don't owe anything, but at the end of the day, too,
I mean, maybe,
it's like,
but also some philosophers would argue that we do owe things to other people.
100. Yeah.
So go read Tim Scanlon.
I believe you, and I don't doubt. Like, that makes total sense. I can see it from that perspective as well.
Yeah, it is interesting because, so not that I imagine any of us being the three of us as influencers. I mean, like there's influencers as the base, and then there's like micro influencers, which are people with like, I don't know, in the thousands of followers, I guess. I imagine myself as like a nano influencer, which is a step even lower, which is where I have like some people who are not my friends and family choose to follow me for some reason. And I have always said, like, oh yeah, the Janchi Show is where I do kind of all my out loud talking, thinking about adoptee stuff. And then, so like for me, it was an identity of like, well, if I'm not really even doing a show on a weekly basis, like I've put it out on the internet, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a web developer and a podcast host. My podcast is like, it used to be super regular and now it's, not. Which is also interesting too. So like Sarah, side note, Sarah at her new job, her most recent, current place of employment, she said to one of her coworkers, oh yeah, my husband has a podcast. And the coworker was like, ugh, everybody has a podcast these days. And then she was like, oh, well, this is what it's about. And the coworker was like, oh, that's actually like pretty cool, whatever. So I was like, yeah, I mean, maybe everybody has a podcast these days. It certainly can feel like that, because what else was 2024 if not to start a podcast? But I was like, no, I mean, I feel great pride and purpose in what we do on the show. That is important to me. And then when the show just, I mean, for life reasons, slows down, then I'm like, oh man, what are we doing here? I feel more urgency to like try to find like an editor or something to make it easier so that we can keep doing this. But I also want to keep the vibe of the show going, because I do think we bring something different to the table and all that kind of stuff. So it's just like, yeah, like even I, in my very small role as a slightly louder voice of a person who has a podcast in the adoptee space, it's just like, oh man, maybe I feel responsibility to do that. And it's not like I was never one to clamor for big ticket adoptee items. I think the closest I got was I moderated a conversation about a movie who was our sponsor. Like that's
Bro,
like I
cannot believe you did that.
In the future, I am going to be a speaker at an adoptee conference. So like those are like my two kind of forays into adopteeness outside of the show. But yeah, so it's just interesting to think about like, where are all the people? Has my algorithm just gotten messed up and I'm just not hearing them? Or Nathan, to your point, are they moving more in person and less online? But then I think about like online for me was my lifeline to the adoptee community, to kind of all those things. And so like I have adoptee friends here in Dallas, which is nice, but like thinking about that and being in that space and like wrestling and struggling and growing with identity, not just for the purposes of myself, but also be like, I would love to, I mean, it's like half the reason I hang out on Reddit is if I come across an answer and I feel like I can intelligently give some help and give some advice and be like, yeah, I would love to do that, but I don't know of any like mentorship, which then I think kind of comes back to adoptees meeting up in real life, whatever, like that lack of social safety net. If you were a church person who is no longer a church person, like there's just but it's harder to find those intergenerational spaces. It's harder to find ways to look forward and look back and look within, all those kinds of things. And I think like in 4 years, I've really come to appreciate that about the adoptee space. And I see a lot of the people who I just became friends with who are also adoptees, like they are growing and they are moving on and they are continuing, which is lovely. And I'm so happy for them. And also I'm like, but there are probably still people who right now might come across our podcast having just awoken, having just had that moment of like, oh God, what do I do? And so then I'm like, but how do we continue to create that space online for those who haven't broken into the in-person spaces?
Well, the content is still there, so that's good. The fact that they can jump into it and start back at episode 1 and work their way up. There's 3 years worth of content right there. So I think that's great that it's always online. I was going to say on that what you just said too is something that might be also a reason is that the three of us live in major cities, so the accessibility is different. But for others that may live in rural areas or places that don't have any adoptee communities, I think online resources like the stuff that like podcasts or shows or
like full on adoptee related orgs like Adoption Mosaic and Con and other
have their little speaking events and stuff like that. I think those are still very important, and that's probably why is because the accessibility. We've kind of moved on to the things that we are taking over our lives and stuff, but it doesn't mean that we're like going to disappear. And it doesn't mean that I think we feel like we have to have an obligation to do an episode. I mean, the fact that we were doing an episode every week is pretty impressive. Still.
That's what I was saying. It was just wild.
So if we move it down to like 2 a month or even 3 a month, I don't think hopefully no one's gonna cancel
5
us, right?
We're actually ramping up. We're doing 3 a week.
Gotta do 4 regular, 1 bonus.
But I mean, I'm just happy with the ways that our lives have gone, I think, and seeing that progression again, kind of what I went back to earlier is when I was saying that we've changed in our journeys, but we've also changed in our lives. And I think some people who have maybe followed us from the very beginning like to see that and like to continue listening to those changes because maybe they're going through those same changes as well. Maybe there are people out there listening who have had a baby as well in these last 4 years and are listening and saying, wow, that's exactly what I was doing and stuff like that. So we don't have the luxury of knowing exactly all our listeners and what they're going through. So
that's true. We are not psychic,
but we are parched. And so when we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to jump in with... that was really intense. When we come back, we're going to jump in with a thing to quench our thirst. Let's take a break.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show. It is time to take a drink from the tree of Oriental raisins. Oh, sorry, it's a shrubbery. Actually, it's a bush, but it kind of is a tree. It says from what I have read. So yes, today on the Janchi food portion, we are trying a drink that I have had for a while and I've been wanting to try. And just because it's interesting. And I know you can make tea out of a lot of things, but I have never heard of this Oriental Raisin Tea. So I'm
going to start out by asking y'all to read the date on the cap edge.
Nice.
It was last month. That's what. Okay, we were taking a break.
We're all the same. All right,
we were taking a break.
All right. I just wanted to make sure. I was.
So we're about to jump into an expired drink because we unknowingly took a 1.5 break.
It's okay.
I guess that is my fault.
It's not that far off. It's right on time. So, but yes, this is. I don't know. So let's take a sip, and then I'll tell you a little bit about what I read online here. So,
is that? Oh yeah, I was looking at it upside down.
Ungjin. Ungjin.
So it smells not bad. It smells earthy.
Whoa, it tastes earthy.
It tastes earthy. I mean, it's not bad. I mean,
it's a lot stronger flavor than I anticipated. Okay,
it's
so
almost like
it's a lot
that
different than I
barley tea.
anticipated.
It
It kind
I
of
thought
reminds
it
me
would
of
be-
barley tea.
I thought it would be
But-
closer to that. So random Korean words. We have Ungjin, that's the brand. We've got Hotgecha. I don't know what that means.
It tastes
Hokecha?
like crushed up tortilla chips that have been made into ice cold water.
I was going to say
Yes.
that. So
Wow.
this is a
That's
very
dead
weird
on.
comparison, but why does it have that corn flavor to it? Yeah. It's almost like corn.
That's
It's
what
like a
this
corn
tastes like.
chip flavor.
I think
Yeah.
it's this artificial flavor parentheses brown rice there at the end.
Mm.
It's wild to me. Okay, so here we go.
I don't hate it.
Ungjin, Hokecha. Hokecha, the ingredients: water, Oriental raisin berry extract, artificial flavor, Oriental raisin berry. I would love to know like what that plant is. IRL.
So the Oriental raisin tree, or also a Japanese raisin tree found in Asia. You can use the berries, which when dried tastes like raisins. You can also use the
Interesting.
leaves to make honey. Oh, sorry, yeah, the young leaves can be used to substitute for honey.
Young
The
leaves.
timber can be used for construction of furniture. And then here's the thing. Chinese, Korean, and Japanese medicines use it to treat fever, parasitic infection, also as a laxative, and treatment of liver disease, and a hangover treatment. So there you go.
I knew there was something at the end there when you started to say also treats or whatever, and you started to read stuff off. I could tell you were already laughing at the thing
You're
at the
ramping
end.
up.
Yeah, hangover treatment. I'm like, that's just funny. I'm like,
Ramping
oh
up for
yeah,
the gigs.
I'll be the judge of that.
Okay.
Nice.
Isn't any liquid probably a hangover treatment?
Yeah, I
Let's
mean
be
anything
honest.
that hydrates your
water in
body.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you were talking about the raisinberry itself, right? So
Yes.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I can't get away from that brown. What did you say? Tortilla chips with
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just perfect.
Mhm.
It does taste like strong tea, like overdone, which maybe that's why I don't like it. I don't like a strong tea as much, but yeah, it's not bad. It honestly makes me want ginsa.
I was sad that we drank all three of them so quickly because actually, yeah, I want more. So
I
might
was
have to go buy
too,
that.
but they are coming to Texas, so I just
Oh,
gotta
nice.
wait a little longer, and then I can get some for real. But yeah, it's good. It's weird. I'm not as off put by it, but then as I was probably like the barley tea. So
Or the burdock root tea that we bought. That
yeah,
one time.
all the teas that you've gotten for us have been properly foreign
Winter melon.
and also odd. So
Properly foreign.
yeah, like you would not find that in a Walmart.
No,
but
you
you
would
probably
not.
would find a gochujang in a Walmart these days. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. I think it is fine. It's not bad, but I don't love how the flavor sits both in my mouth and at the tip of my throat in a weird way. So
Just like tortilla chips.
just like tortilla chips, yeah.
Bro,
Where you
but
don't
go get
swallow
some-
so
not
good.
just like tortilla chips, but just like a month-old bag of tortilla chips, aka when this drink was supposed to have been drank originally. I'm giving it a 3 for
Wow.
almost the exact same reasons. I don't think this is a bad drink. I'd be interested to see if that did affect
I don't think
at
it
all.
would have, honestly.
Probably not too much, but
I'm gonna go
That was
drink
the
this with
revelation I
some
had.
tortilla chips and see if that's
why
redundant.
don't you do
I
that to
don't know.
yourself? Now you're just going to get salt. The only added thing that you're going to get is salt and
Yes.
crunch.
Well,
there's
so that's the
sodium
thing.
bicarbonate.
Yeah, there's something here, but that's why you wouldn't also find this in
Get
Walmart.
out of here
by
with
the
your
way.
bicarbonate.
There's no way you'd find it in Walmart because total sugars is 0 grams.
What, you're saying Walmart doesn't sell non-sugary things? They got a
I feel
closed
like
section
that's
sometimes.
true. No.
There's no sugar in clothes.
He goes, no.
No. As far as drinks go, as teas go, no. But I mean, I could add some honey to this, and it'd probably change the flavor a little bit.
That's true. This would be a great thing to
Yeah.
zhuzh. Very
Zhuzh.
zhuzhable.
Yeah.
Very judgeable.
I'm gonna keep it.
I agree.
And I'm gonna drink it for. Actually, does it have caffeine even, or is it because it's an herbal tea? Probably has zero caffeine.
It's got zeros across the board.
Yeah, it does. Even
literally
calories.
does not exist.
Well, I'll let you know. But I'm gonna add some honey for it when I eat dinner tonight with it. So
cool.
I will similar rate it at 3 as you guys did too. It's not my favorite tea, but it's drinkable. So I didn't look what I mean. Also, hey,
that's low key disrespectful.
I couldn't believe that I was the most generous with a 3.5.
It's not good tea, but it's drinkable. And I'm getting called out for calling it like murky water, which is a fun, playful way to describe a liquid.
Is it? Have you ever looked at a lake and be like, man, that water looks murky? And be like, wow, that sounds like a fun, playful lake.
Yeah, but this came in a can with a fun packaging. Right. So, like, it was supposed to be, it was like a fun Scooby-Doo murky.
Yeah. In the end, the can was actually Old Man Jenkins.
Exactly. Oh, and he would have got away with it, too.
If it weren't for Patrick Armstrong.
I still drink Milkus, by the way, so, you know.
Milkus.
Oh,
that is hilarious. Well.
But, yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Try something new.
This is episode 167.
Nope. That's inaccurate. Anyways, thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for sticking with us as we figure out our new lives and new schedules and all that stuff. One more time, we are doing a giveaway for a free ticket to con. Whether you have yet to purchase a ticket or you have already purchased a ticket, you will get reimbursed. It is for adoptees who are 18 years or older. You can sign up for that in the link in our bio on Instagram. It's also on our, you can just go to janchishow.com/linktree if you don't do Instagram. It's just a Google form.
Just read the rules too. Read the rules.
There's some rules.
Read the rules. Be a rule follower.
Make sure read the rules.
The cool kids.
Read the terms and conditions.
So,
ring that bell. Hit that subscribe button.
And also to clarify too, we are going to be a con, but individually, we are not there as the Janchi Show with a session or anything. So
you will not see us in the same space standing next to each other a single time.
We will be selling Janchi Show merch unrelated to con events. Oh, potentially.
Yeah, that was something we had to talk about still.
Yeah, so we got some business to talk about after this show is done. But we'll be there. The drawing is happening at 4:30 Central on April 26th, which is this Friday, on Instagram Live. If you're not there, you're square, but we'll still try to contact you.
Square. Hey, Huey Lewis.
Yeah. If you want to hang out with me online, you can do so at KJ Roelke, wherever I want to be found, which apparently is Instagram and Threads.
In Dallas.
Instagram and Threads.
I am Ed Nowak on Instagram and Nathan Nowak on Facebook still.
And I am at Patrick in the World. You can also listen to my other show, Conversation Piece with Patrick Armstrong. That comes out every Tuesday. And you should also just go to janchishow.com to check out all the different stuff that we have. Maybe leave us a review. Maybe send us an email. Maybe find us on any of our socials. It'll be super fun if you meet us over there. Last but not least, I wanted to bring this up in the episode part, but I forgot. But I'm going to bring it up now as we close the episode. For any of our new listeners who are just joining us for the very first time, Nathan, can you tell them what Janchi means?
Janchi means to feast or celebrate, and we are feasting and celebrating with each other. Right now we were drinking, but no, it's just we use it to feast, and we are talking about our intersectionalities.
You know what? I'm going to actually argue that that's Patrick's fault because I had him roll in at the top.
That's true. He did roll it in, but we were
then we got distracted by something. I don't know what we started talking about, and I almost said, but you jumped into something. Whatever our first
so it's still my
conversation
fault. God
topic.
damn it! I'm an idiot.
And I jumped in, but it felt too natural where you took it. So I'm just like, I'm going to go. I'm going to go with you.
And I still cannot get every time I try to voice say Janchi, it always spells it as the JOHN somewhere. So
that's why it always says it like that when you text it.
Janchi.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you text it that way? Or is that just my mom?
No, it's autocorrect. It autocorrects it sometimes like that.
Nice.
Okay.
Really annoying. JANCHI.
JANCHI 972-677-8867 for voicemails and texts. That's it though. We're back, and until the next time that we are back, Janchi.
Heyo.